super fair. Right now, that whole system for the vast majority of people that are able to connect to this stream right now, you got internet, you got brain, all that stuff, it's optional. You don't have to do that, especially if you want to earn the same amount of money that most people are. So, let's say median income in America. Damn, that's a lot lower than I thought. $40,000 a year? Household income 80K. Alright, I'll use this figure. It probably isn't much higher for a single person. So, median income in USA is $40,000 a year. That means half of the income earners are earning below that, and half are earning more. I wonder what's the top quartile. Oh, the technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to figure something out for this. My bad, guys. This stream is turning a little ghetto, but we roll with that anyways. Back to what I was saying. So it's kind of hard to tell. I'm not sure what the top quartile is, but median is 40K. So that means half of people in this country are earning less than 40K a year. That is crazy. And how they're making it, they're trading their hours for a wage. So what would that hourly be if they're, let's just assume, full time, 40 hours a week? Mm-mm-mm. 40 hours a week times, let's just say 50 weeks, say a 2 week vacation. So over 2,000 hours. So 40 grand divided by 2,000. Roughly, median wage is around $20 an hour. Hmm. But that's also to earn that amount of money, 2,000 hours of your life. Damn. So basically, if we want to look at it in a different perspective, $2,000 to solve a problem that's worth $40,000 USD. Hmm. And that's going with the hourly wage labor system. But let's say a hypothetical. What if instead of spending those 2,000 hours to get that 40 grand, what if you can attack a problem that's worth about $40,000, but only takes you 500 hours of your life. That would free up 1,500 hours of your life so you can do anything your heart desires. And it's not just the raw amount of hours, it's also energy as well. So instead of working 8 hours day by day by day by day, what if it was like, I don't know, a 3 day work week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the other 4 days just like all free? I think the quality of life for that hypothetical person would be a lot higher. But Isaiah, is that even feasible for most people? You say it is, but come on. This just isn't possible. We weren't taught how to do that. Schools didn't teach us how to be entrepreneurs. Schools didn't teach us how to solve business problems. And yeah, that is totally right. It's very infuriating in a way that schools didn't teach us how to be at least a little bit entrepreneurial, or at least give us or give opportunities for us to train our communication in a business context. We barely had any sort of training to for communication in like an interpersonal context, really, aside from like academic essays, but not really too much in the real world regarding work. Which you can like conspire and say, oh, this was all on purpose, so we're all gonna be worker bees. But as of now, for the ones outside of school, like myself, even though I am going back to college to snag a degree for unrelated reason, there are still things that we can do. Not all hope is lost, especially for the ones who are looking for work right now. Um, so let's just produce more hypotheticals. Not really hypotheticals, but let's say these are hypotheticals. Let's say there was a business out there, controlled by someone who's, been doing this for like, let's say, 10 years. They've been working on the same business, but they are from a different generation. Let's say it's a boomer or whatever. Do you really think that that person, while they may have a running business that's profitable, do you really think that their systems in place are optimized to produce the most amount of money as possible, what these people want? Let's just say this hypothetical person doesn't understand either the power of these new AI large language model systems, or they don't know how to implement them. They don't even know where to start with it, and especially if they're not tech adept. Like, if they, let's say they do know how to use a computer, but they don't know how to program or set up AI agents or any sort of like automation, there is definitely room for improvement. There are areas in their systems where you can decrease the amount of human labor needed and also generate more profit, customers, whatever, per amount of time. What I'm saying is, these business owners out there need help. They have their own problems, and these problems have a dollar figure attached to them. So let's say if you're able to put in systems with like no additional human labor, they would be able to produce another, let's say, $100,000. For them, that could be a few more customers, that could be maybe a lot more customers, maybe a better marketing system, a better sales system, maybe a better offer, a better product. Most of these people do not have a perfect business. So, people like me, maybe someone like you, can come in, talk to them, discover what problems they have, and some of them are actually open to discussing about how you can help them make more money because that's what, these people care about the most. These are capitalists we're talking about. So let's say this problem was worth about $100,000 to them. Would you pay someone $20,000 to make $100,000 back? I would. A lot of people would. Most capitalists would. And let's say that took you, I don't know, $100 hours worth of effort. That would mean if you want to put it in like an hourly perspective, if this thing paid you 20 grand, and they only took you 100 hours worth of effort, that's $200 an hour. Now, I don't really think it makes sense to just judge by how productive or whatever you are by like dollars per hour. I would really do about how many and high value these problems are. So now, like, I don't really think about, okay, I can sell 1 hour of my time for $15 or $50 or whatever. It's more like, what problems can I solve? How can I provide the most value to someone else? And then that's how I get paid and proportional to how much value I provide. Of course, you need to be able to communicate and demonstrate that value that you provide to these business owners or whoever you're talking to. But that's the mindset shift I think would be beneficial for most people in mine and my demographic. Um, so I mean, I guess the answer to the question is no. I don't think we are effed. And I think we may actually be a little bit lucky because perhaps we don't have to work as much as we, previously thought because the generations before us, their strategy was to hop into a corporation, hopefully, spend their 20 to 40 years there and take a pension. And then you saw like Gen X and like millennials, it's like the pensions went away. So it's more like you have to figure out your own retirement, still have to work those 20 to 40 years. And during those 20 to 40 years, you better have been putting money into like your own 401k or Roth IRA, something like that. And then better hope whatever investments that you made actually grew and grew to the amount where it's able to sustain your retirement. For someone like me, for Gen Z, I think the better system might be to, yes, I mean, we're gonna have to work a little bit. We're gonna need to solve some problems, but we don't need to directly be trading our time for money per se, one to one. It's really we solve, let's say you wanted to make 50K, 50K a year. Solve problems up to the point where you provide um, more than 50K worth of value. Let's just say three, 3 to 1. So, or 2 to 1. Say 3 to 1. Let's say you produce $150,000 worth of value to other people, they'll be willing to pay you 50 grand. Let's say you want to do that every year. Think about it in that way. And for some of these problems, it may take a month or two worth of your time. It may take less. It's not really in a linear scale that most of us are used to. And there are multiple tools of leverage that we have. So we have one I'm using right now, media. I'm recording this from my bedroom. It's a pretty low budget setup. Obviously, I've already went offline a couple of times, but that's okay. I'm able to send if I'm recording this right now. I'm able to send this to pretty much anyone in the world that's connected to the internet. I can make a marketing video about a product or service I made and send that to anyone else in the world. I can upload it to a YouTube channel and anyone in the world can see that video. Basically, have a digital clone of me selling something on my behalf. That's leverage. Another one, especially when we come to social media, as well, code. So, of course, like the social platforms that we have right now, they rely on code as well to deliver that, distribute that content across society. But also, you can create a piece of software that solves a very valuable problem for someone else. Like 100 lines of code that could solve $1 million problem, potentially. Let's just say, I know these LLMs are kind of getting a bad rep, but they are pretty powerful. Let's say you're able to produce a system where it's like it takes care of a lot of customer service problems. Let's just say it's like the first layer of defense for, firefighting. That could reduce the amount of labor that's needed to hire, human customer service reps. That and let's say that reduces the need for one full-time person. Uh, that could potentially be if they're paying the median salary about 40 grand a year. Not to mention you'll keep that piece of software year after year. So not even just thinking about 1 year. Let's say if you kept that and it was working for like 5 years, that's $200,000 of value. But yeah, there are other aspects of leverage that you can use right now. I would say another is establishing a brand, a personal brand. That's essentially what marketing does. Example: soap. Dr. Squatch was a soap company. Now, the marketing was, oh, this is all natural soap for men, no harmful ingredients, all the good stuff. This is oh my god, I don't even want to think about that fucking thing. Um, all natural soap for men. They had a bunch of marketing. I'm sure a bunch of people have seen it. And this is soap. Like these, like you can't really use like ingredients that other people don't have. Like it's just like a recipe of soap. You produce it, you ship it off. It's a pretty simple business. Even though it's a simple business, with their marketing team, they're able to sell so much, establish themselves as a brand in the marketplace where the founders of Dr. Squatch were able to sell the company, really the brand Dr. Squatch, for $2 billion. And they did it, let's just say, when did they do it? acquisition. They're right now owned by some VC, yeah, Summit Partners, and yeah, they valued it at $2 billion. That's crazy. And that's $2 billion over 90 million in EBITDA, which is pretty much just profit over a year, which is a that's almost that's 20x, which is super high of a valuation compared to the profit per year. And like really most of that like leverage has to do with the brand that was created. And that is able to be created by anyone. Of course, you're going to need marketing skills, of course, a dash of luck to establish your spot in the marketplace. But that's another tool of leverage that we have to, build wealth, provide for ourselves and stuff like that. But like what does this really mean for like a singular person, especially someone starting from, zero? They don't know much about entrepreneurship. They don't really know much about, communicating in business contexts. And I would just say, it's very like, and I say this with like a little bit of experience. Um, I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 15 a little bit, and by that I just really mean I didn't really have like a boss over me except for like clients that you work with. Um, selling the services I control, and I at the time I was just doing myself, just being a one man show. Um, Small stuff like landscaping, just really mowing lawns. High school, I was selling a lot of snacks, and kind of like upgrading from that. I became a real estate agent right after I graduated from high school. Did that for a couple years. A little bit. That is like sort of entrepreneurial because you more responsibility is on your hands compared to most um, types of jobs that people take. Because if you don't sell any houses, you don't make any money. And while I did have a real estate broker that I had to work under, it there wasn't as much hand holding compared to other types of employment. So I would say that's kind of the entrepreneurial experience I have. So maybe I do have a leg up compared to uh, most people in my age group and demographic. But what I would say, especially because I'm still in the trenches right now, it's very overwhelming and it can get extremely lonely as well. um, Heavy on the overwhelming part because you are responsible for a lot more things. So you're responsible for, let's say, you build a team culture, operations, stuff like that. Where exactly are we headed? What problems are we solving? How are we going to solve those problems? What are we going to do from the day to day? Um, you know, and just like making sure everybody's on the same page. All that is responsible to the the team leader, the owner. They have the most at stake. It can get very stressful. I think it's worth it, but it's definitely a very stressful position to be, especially if you're new to it. But what I would say you definitely need to at least build or focus on one skill or maybe one set of skills. Because let's say you knew how to develop software. You're able to engineer. You can be a software engineer rather than just working for a company, let's say like Fang or Google, Microsoft, you can instead offer up those services to other private companies or whatever, and essentially act as a freelancer. You have that option. Or if you wanted to like run a business, be more of that type, you could hire or work with other software engineers and connect those software engineers to private corporations or even public corporations, and essentially develop products or services that those software engineers could serve to those people. Of course, you would make the profit off the spread between the cost to pay those engineers and the amount of money that they're, paying to have those problems solved. And that's essentially what a business is. So I would say for most people, it may make more sense to start off as a freelancer, especially if you're gonna go for a agency. That model I just told you about, that's the agency model. And the reason why I say that is because when you work as that person, let's say on the lower level, being the actual worker and serving, you pick up on how exactly that work is supposed to be done. You get an eye for what is good and bad work, and you have more wisdom on which person is best fit for the position that you need. Um, but I don't think um I know it's heavily incentivized to have your own business now, but I don't think it's legit necessary for everybody or even makes sense. I'm not saying it's necessary. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say business is not for everybody because it can get pretty stressful and you could actually end up spending more hours per, reward, the amount of money that you make at the end. It's definitely a time investment in the beginning, especially if you're not working with too much capital in the beginning, like me. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end, you know, end with like a conclusion. No, we're not fucked. Yes, there will be some changes in our economy and how humans work, but I believe that we, at least the ones who are going to be proactive about this, are going to be the lucky ones because we are free from this industrial style model of, hourly wage labor. We don't necessarily have to be chained to, 9 to 5, wake up at, 6, 7 o'clock, gotta go work at, arrive at 9, stay there for 8 hours, and, take my paycheck at the end of the week. It'll be more focused on how much value can you provide to the world, and the world would reward you with value back, and that's how you be able to provide for yourself. So for a lot of people, especially if you're able to deliver um, behind a computer and able to leverage the internet, I'm thinking for a lot of people you'll be able to maintain schedule flexibility, location flexibility, and just in general autonomy on where you want, like what industry, what fields, what types of problems you're going to solve. And for someone like me, I think that's a good thing. I think having more options and having more control of your life is a good thing. Now, yes, school system did not really teach us at all to do stuff like that, and I think that has to change. That really has to change. But at a time like now, there are so many tools that are going to help us to accomplish these tasks. Let's just say Chat GPT. Um, fuck. I mean, you can just straight up ask Chat GPT how to make money without. I actually wonder what it will say. Without. Boom. This is probably the most searched question regarding entrepreneurship and business without traditional job. Simple prompt. Boom. Freelancing. Another option: creating a digital product that solves a problem. Like a course. I'm not really too much of a fan of courses. But that's an option. They can be valuable to certain people. Content creation, something I'm doing right now. Let's say I had a YouTube channel. Put some ads on it, and get some of that AdSense money or sponsorship stuff like that. Pretty much freelancing. Uh, People do drop shipping. You could do that too. Also, not too much of a fan of that. Um, but yeah, and if let's say you want to learn a little bit more about what I kind of touched on, like an agency, say you had some experience being a software engineer, but you want to have other software engineers, kind of working with you on the team, you could look up agency model. I'm boom, like with a prompt like that, you can be off to a good start. Now, for tools like this, like these are like very simple prompts. The better that you're able to prompt, the better you're able to use tools like ChatGPT. There's large language models. The more, um, the higher quality of an answer that you're gonna get. And I would say for like higher level concepts, it's really important for you to understand those. But these LLMs could take care of like the fine details on the how. I would say the why should really be on you, the user, the human. But the actual how, that's kind of the easy part for these tools to figure out. Um, but yeah, let's just see what it says. Understand what an agency is. Yep, that's pretty much what I said. Understand the high level concepts. Say you're doing all the work, your agency manages projects and delivers solutions, sometimes with subcontractors or employees. Pick a niche, define core services, form a team, create a simple offer, and find clients. Of course, it's not as easy as just plug and play, but I would say if you really want something like this, it is possible for the vast majority of people. But it's not, like I said, it's not gonna be easy. You will have to grow as a person because these things weren't taught to us. So we're gonna have to learn a lot. We're going to need to become comfortable with uncomfortable things, and kind of roll with the punches because it's not gonna all be good. Like I'm just gonna tell you, especially with finding clients, not every person that you're gonna contact is even going to want to talk to you. a bunch of them are not going to trust you off rip when contacting them. Um, Even if you did know that you have a valuable product. So, yeah, it's gonna be a bumpy road, but I think it's worth it. And I'm kind of done yapping. I'm gonna go finish my tea and, you know, play some shit. Maybe some Overwatch or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna end it. Peace. I'll see you later. Stream schedule's up. Next stream's not gonna be as impromptu. This was unscripted. I had no notes in front of me. I just wanted to yap, and I yapped. So peace. Bye.